Welcome back to Out Loud with Steve and Mal. It is that time of the show where we have a little thing called Cornered Celebrity. Who do we have cornered today? It is singer-songwriter and TV performer. We've seen him too. He is from England. He is a Londoner. Proudly says that he's a Londoner. It is Ben Ofoedu joining the show. Ben, welcome to Out Loud.
Thank you, Steve, and thank you, Mal. And maybe it's because I'm a Londoner. Call blimey, Governor.
Blimey,
I know
Governor.
that's how.
Oh, just stop that stuff right now.
Londoners. You're the American. There you go. You're outvoted on this one today, Steve.
No, I get 4 votes. I get 4 votes, just like what X Factor or whatever's that you guys have out there. That's what I get.
Yeah, but you haven't got the X Factor.
Yeah, it's the 3 X's, isn't it? Or was it 4? Yes, 4 votes. You're right. Yes, it is. It is.
Yeah.
It's 4 votes, and now that Twitter's X2, right there, X marks the spot. Right there.
Yeah. So. I'd press my buzzer if you were on there. I'd reject you, definitely.
Oh no, I reckon Steve's got a great name. The name Ben's is great to me, so I probably would let you through just on the name alone.
Ben, don't suck up to him. You've only been on for 5 seconds.
Well, it's, I see a man with the same. His name is similar to mine. So
okay, go on. You bros stay together.
Right there, Ben. Ben. See, so you're already out. Let me just push you right out of the screen, Mal. You're already out. See, bros forever, right there. Bros forever.
Yeah. Go on then. So how have you been? Ben?
Sorry. I've been okay. I've been really, really good. I had a turbulent start to the year because I have a high-profile relationship in the UK, and I broke up with her, and she's kind of a nation's darling. So that was a bit of a problem. Yeah. But apart from that, I've been good. I've been acting more this year, which is something that I really wanted to pursue in the later part of my career. And I think this is the later part. So I've been pursuing that. I've just come out of a play called Tony and Tina's Wedding, which was a massive hit in America off Broadway. And it's 2 Italian Americans that get married, and it's the ups and downs with that. So I've just come out of that. I'm in the middle of auditioning for The Temptations. I've always wanted to play a singer, and I am a singer in real life, but singing is my passion. So I'm looking at the part of David Ruffin at the moment. I'm sort of writing new music, and I'm gigging because it's the summer season over here. So I'm gigging like loads and loads and loads, and doing loads of different bits and pieces. So I'm really happy at the moment.
So Ben, how do you prepare for a role like that for The Temptations? That's big shoes. It's kind of, that must be a big pressure kind of jumping into something like that and going through the casting.
Yeah, I think you re-educate yourself. I mean, I think that those classic bands are in everyone's psyche, especially people of my age. But I mean, they're in most people's psyches because, My Girl and Just My Imagination and things like that get played all the time. So you hear them all your life. And then when you're going up for a part, you kind of listen to them again, and then because you're playing the actual characters, then you start to look at the actual way that they sing, and sort of add those characteristics to your own voice, and then you hope for the best and see what happens. So yeah, it's just about re-listening to them again, re-educating yourself, watching loads of videos of them, watching the way they move, and how slick they were. They were very, very slick. I mean, it's some of the greatest bands of all time, and then imitating them, really, because you're trying to make people believe that you are that character.
Right. Of course. Yeah, absolutely.
You're playing a real character, unlike Tony and Tina's Wedding, which was a massive hit. And I don't want to suggest that I was actually up for Tony, but that was...
No, you weren't. Please don't ever. No, you weren't.
Yeah, but the Temptations and things like that that takes some chops, my friend. That really does, to sit there and get people convinced. And it's good to know that you say I'm a singer and I'm playing a singer versus me trying to play an on-air guy. So
yeah. So sorry, Ben,
when you're in a movie, I was going to say that when you're in a movie, it doesn't really matter. Vocals don't really matter. I mean, sometimes for authenticity, they do it. I've got a friend who's looking at playing Marvin Gaye, and he's not. I mean, they've kind of shortlisted him, but he's not a singer. But he looks spitting image of Marvin Gaye. So, but I think in Hollywood, they can do bits and pieces, can't they? But when it's on this is a live theatre show, so you got to be able to see.
Well, absolutely. So, how did your journey start, Ben? When was the kind of first time that you started kind of singing, or did the acting come first, or did you find it was the singing that was kind of the catalyst of your career?
I think my journey in music's been quite long. I originally had my first dalliance with the music business when I was 16, and not to give away my age, but that was the late 80s. So I was signed by a company called Street Sounds that used to work a lot with Chicago Tracks Records, which was a guy called Larry Sherman, and it was all the original house records, or like Frankie Knuckles and Peter Black and Todd Terry and stuff like that. So I sort of came up rapping on remixes. I was rapping, I wasn't singing because singing wasn't cool in those days. You know what I mean? It was all gold shiny jackets. Although I did go on to wear a gold shiny jacket many years later, but nevertheless, at that time, that's
We
another
know
story.
what's in your wardrobe.
But nevertheless, at that time, it was cooler to rap, and hip hop was still quite new. So it's 50 years old now, but in those days it was, you know, it was probably 10, 15 years old or whatever. So it was quite new. And the rapping, and especially mixed with house music, that was good. So I came up sort of doing that. And then I sort of joined in a boy band, but I won a rap competition on the radio. And I was asked to come down to the studio. And when I came down, I met a guy that ran a record company, a guy called Morgan Khan, who has a radio now, which is on digital, called Street Sounds Radio, which is just last week asked me to do a show on that app. And it's like going full circle. But anyway, he signed me up. And, you know, and then I started making records. And I've been very lucky ever since, because my first record was a chart hit. So it was, I think we went in at number 17 in the national charts, and that was in 88. So and from then we went on to do an album, and then, you know, the rest is history.
That's awesome. So what was it, your own rap that you went in and done the audition, or did you write your own thing, or did you kind of steal someone else's rap?
No. There's what I'm a singer-songwriter, and the only reason why I'm a songwriter is I used to think everyone wrote their own songs. I
Right.
thought if you're going to sing a song, to write it. No one told me. And it's great when you just don't know anything and you're ignorant towards it all. And then I suppose it makes your skills better, you know. And it's like, if you're not a trained musician, you don't have the rules and boundaries that you do with scales and keys. You play what sounds good and you go with your heart and what you feel. And if if you're a songwriter, then there are no boundaries. You don't think bridge, verse, chorus. You think, oh, this is a nice melody, and this is quite catchy. And so there was no limits. So I rapped my own stuff. I mean, who doesn't write their own lyrics? I thought. But now I realize music is a very collective process, and many cogs make up the wheel.
Yeah, nowadays it's like 50 people that all get credit.
Yes.
You know, I want credit for a comma. Is that possible? I mean, both of you write.
Both of us write, and you're not writing with us. No, you're not going to get your cut. It's not happening today. He's always trying to negotiate on the show, Ben. He always kind of tries to get on someone else's platform. It's like,
I was trying to get a bit of publishing. Well, it's a funny thing. There was always a joke in the UK that in America, you know, even the guy that was making the tea in the studio, he gets a cut of the record.
Absolutely,
and that was always that was a funny thing.
So
I don't mind it so much though anymore. But I think in the UK it's a bit different with the records and stuff. I once heard a story from a woman called Amanda Ghost, who actually is credited for writing James Blunt's "You're Beautiful." But she is such a great songwriter. She's quite self-deprecating about it. Well, she was to me in real life, and she said she was barely even there. She was there, but she didn't really add anything to it. To say that confidently because she's written so many great songs herself. She said so she's happy to pay for it, but it's not like she did that much.
Yeah,
which is a nice thing to say.
Honest like that with their own skill.
Well, yeah, I think her honesty comes from knowing that she's a great songwriter herself.
Yeah.
And, you know, and once you have that kind of confidence, you don't feel you need to take credit for things that are not to do with you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like that, do you see yourself as a songwriter or as a singer?
I think I see myself as an artist, really. And it's kind of one of those really sort of weird things that somebody said about Kanye West. He didn't say it himself. I don't know if Jay-Z said it, but he's an artist in whatever he does. It's like an expression. I just see myself as an expressionist. So not to be too, because I have not written a song for probably 4 years or 5 years or something. But if I need to, I can. It doesn't really. If I'm in that mode, if I think I'm going to a record company, I'm going to go and I want to do a project and I want to call it something like what Plan B did. There's an act in the UK called Plan B, and he did a album called The Defamation of Strickland Banks, and he was a rapper, so he needed to create an alter ego called Strickland Banks in order to be able to write those songs. I'm a bit like that. If if a song's needed, I'll write it because it's just another form of expression. I draw, that's a form of expression. I entertain or perform, like right now I'm studying David Ruffin. I'm not necessarily got the part yet, but I'm studying it to become that person. When I did Tony and Tina's wedding, there was a guy called Vinnie Black who I was playing, and I kind of went online and seen the other Vinnie Blacks in America and whatever, and came up with my version of that. So I suppose I'm just an expressionist. So there's no one and the same singer, songwriter, performer, dancer, actor. I don't know. I kind of put it as all the same. I don't know if that's a bit of a complicated answer, but I think it's the truest answer that I could give.
Yeah, definitely. So you've been out kind of doing loads of shows, Boys on the Block. Come on, tell us how. So this is all from the beginning, from when you guys were all out doing your other bands and things, and you kind of like come together and you do your shows now. Like, that's a good group of friends, Ben.
Yeah, Boys on Block is a dream show. So you literally, you get into the music business, and if you're lucky enough to have been successful, then you meet different bands on your way and you're doing gigs with them. Sure. Now, what you'll find is when there's all these different bands, the most like-minded characters end up hanging out together because you backstage. One goes on stage and you're in the bar, then the other one goes on stage and then you come and you kind of gravitate towards each other. So they are all me, but in their own bands. They were, and the bands were quite big in the UK. All of us are million-plus selling bands. Another Levels was a million-plus selling band. It included a guy called Dane Bowers, who was the lead singer. Five was a million-selling band, and they included a guy called Abs, who's in Boys on Block, and Shane Lynch from Boyzone, which were huge. I mean, I'd say millions and millions and millions. And he was one of the members in that band, and then me from the band Phats and Small. So we all sort of, got together. We always hung out together. So in the industry, amongst our peers, it's not weird to see us together because that was what we would be like nightclubbing in the West End or backstage. We would always be together. That would be like the group of people. But I suppose to the world, when we first came out and said, oh, we want to do a little touring show like this, they was like, that's weird. They're from so many different bands and those bands are so diverse. Yeah. But nevertheless, it works because we're all mates. And so, yeah, it's a marriage made in heaven. It's fantasy football for girls, I think, or guys, depending on what you
put it. So have you found that all of your younger fans are kind of grown up women now bringing their kids along and going, wow.
All of that good stuff. All that good stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, it's amazing music now because the most popular music right now in any club, any venue, any concert in the UK is 90s. Anything that happened in the 90s, incredibly popular. 80s is probably second, but then the noughties hasn't really had its revival yet, but it will be coming. But it's 90s at the moment. And whereas the internet, what it's done is kind of made everything a level playing field. So it's kind of made time like redundant because everything's on the net. Yeah. So you can kind of go back, whereas we were very of the time because, someone before, or you had to watch some old footage to tell you about the times before, or your parents will tell you, you'd know you've from your parents. Now the kids are discovering music for themselves, and with Spotify and YouTube, it's like, if you like this record, have you heard this one? This is very similar. This is in the same vein. Yeah. So time is like sort of stood still.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
It's funny. I was in the car the other day with my son, and he kind of put "Baby D, Let Me Be Your Fantasy" on. It's got the new kind of dance mix of that at the moment. He's playing the tune. He looked at me. He was like, "Mum, how do you know the lyrics?" And I'm like, "This is a tune." And he's like, "You're embarrassing me." No. And then I'm like, what other songs? So he's playing me all these kind of songs. And I'm like, these are all my songs. And he's like, no, they're not. They're mine. So you just you hit the nail on the head there. That was a moment I kind of thought, oh God, I'm feeling old, but I can see Steve in the left hand window is desperate to ask if he can join your band. I know you're thinking that, aren't you? Steve has got this dream, join a band, a boy band. That's all he wants to do. So everyone that comes on the show, he finds a way to get into kind of, he can play the triangle, kazoo, tambourine.
Yeah. So
He's got the name. He's got a name of a man that's in a band.
You've got the name, but have you got the looks?
Wow.
I think he looks great.
But talking about music itself, me doing this for so long, music is circular. It always comes back. But we're tied
Yes.
to music that we listen to from 15 to 25, whatever that age might have been, and it all comes back. You can't have the 90s music without the 80s. You can't have the 80s without the 70s. It keeps falling into the next decade. If our kids like it or not, or the youngsters, even you brought up not writing your own, you didn't know about writing your own lyrics. That's what happened. So we're starting to remake great songs from the 60s and 70s, and you kind of reformat it to whatever kind of fits. And even the Boys on the Block here in the States, D12 with Eminem, that's what that was about. Him putting together all his boys and coming out, as a rap back then. And I'll use Eminem as an example. Eventually, someone will try to redo Eminem stuff. Eventually, don't know what kind of or genre they may be, but could you imagine someone to try to do that and step in that kind of arena? That would be kind of difficult, but it will be done at some point.
Yeah, totally. I mean, the thing is, there's two things I want to say actually. Well, many years ago, and that was many years ago, I'd probably say about 7 years ago, I went to a Nicki Minaj concert, and there were loads of little kids there, and they were rapping the lyrics to her songs in the same cadence and the same speed that she uses. And these people were like 7, 8, 9, 10, and some of it was a bit naughty. I think the lyrics are a bit naughty and they might have been too young, but nevertheless, you could hear the whole crowd singing along. And the thing is with Eminem's cadence and rhyme pattern and his skill set, so many kids can rap along to it, which means they have those skills. Yeah. So to be another Eminem won't be as hard as what people think, because these kids are from 7 or 8 years of old are knowing the lyrics and rapping at that speed and understanding timing and rhythm and everything like that. So once you could do that at 7, who knows what they'll be doing at 20, 25, it'd be incredible. So I think that the Eminem sort of revival and kids rapping very similar to that, that's definitely on the cards. And there's another thing you said about without the 70s, there couldn't be the 80s, without the 80s, there couldn't be the 90s. And I am not a massive fan of the 70s at all. I mean, towards the end, bar the disco stuff, the stuff that the Bee Gees did, stuff like that, I'm just not a 70s person. I think it's almost like the 60s happened. I don't know what went wrong in the 70s, and then the 80s happened. And that's my view. So I was having a big discussion with a guy from a group called Spandau Ballet called Martin Kemp. And he was saying that he felt that the 70s was the better era. And I'm going back and forth with him saying the 80s. And then halfway through the conversation, I remembered, one of the reasons I actually like the 80s is because of you. And you're telling me that the 70s was the better era. It was kind of like a surreal moment. One of my most favorite bands is Spandau Ballet, and it's like, and you're in it, and you're telling me, it's kind of weird. I thought, I better stop on this argument. I'm not going to try to convince you. You made some of the music that makes me like the 80s. So so that was that reminded me when you said that.
Wrong is the disco age. The 70s was not the disco age. That was a very short sliver of time. But if you look at what bands were in the 70s in its totality, because I could easily, the 80s were nothing but one-hit wonders. But each one pushes the next one along. That's historically speaking. And even if you look at your career and then you get the Phats and Small, how that was put together. Like, I'd like to know that, and how you got to Boys on the Block, because one got to the other. There is a linear line.
Yeah.
It's all the bloodline. It's very biblical. So it always seems like that. But it's I think with Phats and Small, for me, house music wasn't out of my radar, because in the late 80s I came up doing house music, and then I moved to doing and then I was always in love with hip hop and in love with soul music, R&B. And then I think there was a group that came from the States, born out of New Edition, called Belle Biv DeVoe, which kind of married R&B and hip hop. They don't get enough credit for it, really. With Poison and stuff like that. They kind of were the first singers to dress Jodeci get credit for it, but Bell with the Veil don't. They were the first singers to dress like regular street dudes. So instead of like the suits and the kind of, you know, shiny shoes and the shiny jackets, they were wearing like hoodies and boots and, you know, and check shirts, lumberjack Timberlands and all that sort of stuff, Raiders jackets, which was which was part of the hip hop style. But yet they were singing, they were smooth. And I thought, well, that's kind of how I feel. I can actually sing, but I don't really dress like what people think a singer should dress like. And so then I got into a boy band called Benz. And the reason why the boy band was called Benz, because my name is Benedict, and the other guy, the rapper's name was Benjamin, and then these lead singers guy, because I was the backing singer really, but the lead singer, his middle name was Benedict. So it's just 3 Benz basically. And we got signed to our stage. Yeah, no. Well,
did you get the memo to come to the audition? Look at his little face. Look, Ben, you've upset him.
His name was actually Benz. So we sort of came up with it.
Your moment, Steve. Almost, missed the boat.
We had not thought about it, and I swear this is the truth. My friend's name, which is quite a rude name now, but in the UK it would be rude. But people used to call him BJ, and his name was Benjamin, but he was just BJ. Yeah. So that was that. And then so I never thought of his name being Benjamin. He was just my mate BJ, and I was Ben. I was Big Ben because I'm a big guy. My name's Ben, so Big Ben and BJ were 2 friends. Yeah. And then we decided to make up the name Benz, and instead of the apostrophe S, we put a Z there. Yeah. But halfway through, literally the group in existence, we said to the lead singer, "Don't you have a problem with the group being called Benz because it just kind of really represents me and BJ?" And he was like, no, my middle name's Benedict. And he thought we knew that. So then we just decided, it was meant to be. It must have been meant to be. And then that was it. Yeah, it was just like, things just are meant to be. I was watching this thing about Wham yesterday, and just before they were about to get dropped, they got a call from Top of the Pops. And, because they were in at number 42, but a group had pulled out. So then they got to perform on Top of the Pops. And then that's how they became here. So yeah, it's meant to be. Watching that
recently, in the production office. That's such a great documentary, isn't it? What they've done there, I just love that.
Yes, yeah, totally. And especially now for me, I mean, it's great. That's what I mean. Everything's so available, but for me, having lived that time and being influenced by Wham, or influenced mostly by George Michael, that kind of, that's why I've got 2 earrings still to this very day.
Oh, there you go. Oh.
So just being influenced by that, being influenced because the UK produced great pop music, but going on from Phats and Small, so I was used to house music, and then when it was represented to me in its instrumental form in the late 90s, I was au fait with it. I kind of knew about it, so I was able to sing over it because it was music that was very familiar to me. Now with Boys on Block, that is just born out of nostalgia. At the moment, because of the hard times that we've all kind of been through, COVID being one of them, but before that, we had a recession in 2008 and all these kind of hard times, and people are always nostalgic and look back at better days, and music is an incredible time machine. It's the only thing that it takes you right back to where you were and how you felt at that time and brings you back to that emotion when you hear the beginning of the record, and then by the end, you're back in the modern day. Yeah. So Boys on Block is a nostalgia band, as in all of us had hits 20 years ago. Yeah. And that whole crowd. So when we go on stage, it's like playing a compilation album of different tracks, and every time one of us goes out to sing the track and we all join in with each other, the whole crowd sings along. And then I sing mine, the whole crowd sings along, and Dane sings his. So that was more born out of nostalgia and more born out of the times. And I think that when you're going through a really, really hard time in your life, a lot of times you just want some affirmation. So you need a hug. And I think Boys on Block are one big musical hug to everyone.
That's a really nice way to put it. Really nice way. So what do you see ahead for you over the next few months? Obviously, you've got your theatre kind of auditions and things going on for new kind of roles. Is there something on that kind of list that you're thinking, oh, I really want to kind of do that, or kind of something you're searching for on the music or kind of theatre side? Is there a role? Is there a dream kind of plan with things?
I think I was meant to shoot a movie where I was going to play a teacher, like like really cool Brit flick, but it keeps getting put back. but hopefully that will go into production towards the end of this year. Acting is where I see my future. I was always a better actor than I was singer, even at school and stuff like that. It was more acting. It's just that rapping was cool, and I thought I could get more girlfriends like that. And kind of worked out. Actually,
you could get more girlfriends rapping. Right. I love that. Did you used to go up to
girls like cool
little love rap to try and win the girl? I love that.
Well, I just thought if I become a famous rapper, then that will. But I didn't become a famous rapper as such. But but it definitely helped with my credibility.
Visions of you in the playground rapping and all these girls circling around you.
that was a thing. That was a thing. I mean, that's such a brand new skill.
Yeah,
it was such a brand new skill to do it. It was almost like being able to, I don't know, stand on your head. It was just like, wow, that's a really cool thing. How do you do that? It was very much like that. So just mainly more acting, really. I mean, I'm so filled up with gigs at the moment because obviously the summer season is big festival season over here, and when you are from a heritage or retro act like myself and Boys on the Block are, then obviously everyone kind of every week you're doing different things. You're doing 2 or 3 gigs a week, so that's really, really good. But I really want to firmly plant myself in acting, and now I'm gonna have to play somebody's dad or granddad, who knows? No, somebody's dad, I think. That thing. And that was nice. I like the idea of the British soaps. I've always liked EastEnders or Coronation Street or even Hollyoaks. But maybe
you'd be great in EastEnders, London boy. Come on.
I'm a geezer, ain't I?
Geezer, isn't it? That's the geezer. I like that. You could just walk into the pub, rock up to the pub, give a little bit of dip. Come on. Yeah, he'd be good.
I would love to. And so, and if the directors and the casting directors hear this, I would love to be
absolutely.
In East.
Come on then. So if I'm behind the bar, you've just walked in through the door. Give me your one-liner. What are you going to say to me? There's trouble kicking off on the market. Come on.
I'd say there's a bit of trouble kicking off. Well, first of all, I would walk in and say, "Hello, Mal. They can have a pint of your best bitter and get yourself something
all right,
nice.
Darling. I'll do that.
Money. All right, yeah. Then you pull the pint, and then when it all kicks off,
I just pulled.
I know when it all kicks off in the East End, there's something that they always say: "Come on, calm down. We've all had a nice drink."
Yeah.
And I'll go, what?
And they always say that.
And then the American walks in. You can say, "Well, there's an American in the market," and we're like, "Oh my god!" So we'll all open the doors to the pub and we'll go outside and see what's kicking off. There you go.
Right.
Yeah. We've even written it for them. They don't even need to think of that episode. The American turns up. He's running the fruit stall. God, that would be controversy.
I think they should be, but I think they'd always write in like a mafia character coming from America, or an American gangster.
Yeah.
Over to do the deal.
Steve the assassin on the banana stall or something, on the fruit stall.
Everyone thinks, because I'm from Chicago, that I'm mafia and stuff. So that Al Capone still lives. No, he's been gone.
Yeah. There you go.
You don't hear about the mafia. I don't even know if they're still around.
What's going on? You got a website, social media that everyone can follow you at?
I'm at Big Ben Ofoedu on Instagram, on Threads, and on Twitter and on Facebook. So it's my name, Ben Ofoedu, and my surname Ofoedu, but you just put the Big Ben before it. So I always say, people say, "What's your hand?" I'll say Big Ben, and I'm the first Big Ben that comes up on any search. So
there you go.
Even as me and the clock.
You and the clock. Which I may say, Steve saw for the first time in October. You saw Big Ben, didn't you? In October when you first came to London.
I did.
First visit to London. So he's coming back soon.
Right. Well,
yeah.
In October, that was first visit. How did you find it, Steve?
It was great. It was fantastic. And I renamed it Big Ben's. So it's already been set.
Right. Yeah. That's all right. Big Ben's. Yeah, no, that's
claimed it. Typical American.
Now, the weirdest that I saw in London, and I mentioned it, is that no one would actually look at me, directly look at me and talk to me. That was like the weirdest thing that's ever happened to me. So it's kind of like, they could tell I was an American and all that. And everyone,
it might have been the way you were dressed.
Well, dressed as a banana didn't help. But
there was that bad rapper's outfit you had on. But with that foil kind of jumpsuit.
But everyone was so.
Yeah, no, London, I must admit, it's, as well as it being one of the greatest cities in the world, if not the greatest. I am biased, but it's just a combination of the melting pot of different cultures and the history. And there's so much architecture and architect history over here. And that's kind of why I think it's great. It's also has an air of danger, which kind of makes it quite cool in a way. And I know that sounds funny, but there's just like an undertone of you don't quite know what's going to happen next. But that's not in a really fearful way. You know, the most greatest iconic musicians, whether it be Prince, even Michael Jackson to a certain extent, even Michael Bublé has it. You're not quite sure what they're going to say next, and that keeps you kind of tuned in.
Yeah,
you know, it's you know, it's not all sugar. There needs to be spice.
Oh,
so that's my view of London and iconic figures.
I walked around as if I had been there decades. So I loved it. It just had a vibe that I was familiar with, even from America.
Brilliant.
I mean, we are the melting pot. You could go from New York to Chicago to Florida to Los Angeles. Each one has a different vibe.
Yeah, totally. I feel, and in London, again, I'll big up, there is, and sometimes I think, I've seen it with the rappers when they come over and stuff like that. There's a lot more harmony here, like real harmony. You know, I think I don't, you know, I'm not going to speak too out of turn about America, but I think London is almost the future of where mankind would be, as in the tolerance level for each other and culture is a lot more in London. That's a big statement to make, you know what I mean? But nevertheless, I don't know. I think as I've grown older, I'm just more of an honest kind of person. But I definitely think we got it right. And I think that sometimes in London we don't know how good we've got it, and then you travel and then you see, oh, actually, this isn't. Yeah, and you come back, you go, wow, you know, we are. You know, we really have, we're really so tolerant of each other, and we live and let live kind of thing, more than we think we do. You know, so that's what, and then that's what, those kind of things in my adult life have made me fall in London even more.
Yeah.
Well, Ben, thanks so much for being on the show. We got to have you back. We'll have you back in a few months.
Catch up. Well, how you're going to get on auditions and everything as well. Keep us posted. Good luck with everything.
Yeah. I got a new job. I'd love to come on and talk again and promote it.
Absolutely. That would be fantastic. Brilliant. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Ben.
Thank you, Steve.
Take care. See you soon.
Bye.